evening, everybody. Hello, all. So tonight it gives me great pleasure to introduce Lynn and Ian with their talks about sailing from from Fremantle to Indonesia and Darwin return. After many years of offshore racing and working varied roles, volunteering and an illustrious history at FSC, these intrepid sailors finally embarked on some blue water cruising to Indonesia and Northern Australia in their Dewfall 40 yacht, Fourth Dimension. 6 months, 5,580 nautical miles and over 70 anchorages later, they returned to Fremantle knowing a little bit more about long distance cruising. So, as a precursor to the 2025 Fremantle to Indo rally race, please join Lynn and Ian to hear about their adventures at Fourth Dimension. Thank you.
Welcome everybody, and thank you for coming down on such a cold night. I hope you enjoy this show tonight. It's very dear to us, and it's personal. It's come from us. So a little bit of background about Ian and myself. I've been a member here for about 25 years. Ian's been a member, I think, about 21 years. Ian's sailing experience has been in Melbourne. I think he started to sail when he was born. A lot of racing on the bay in Melbourne, flying 15 champion, Mitchells, keel boats, Melbourne to Devonport and up the east coast there. So he's very, very experienced in racing. Myself, a little bit different. Had a midlife crisis in my early 40s and bought a boat and learned to sail. So very different backgrounds from sailing, and I just surrounded myself with lots of experienced people and studied a lot. Did Clipper in 05, 06, sailed in the UK from the top to the bottom across to France, sailed with Clipper from Fremantle to China, a little stop at Subic Bay. A couple of years after that I did an expedition to Antarctica for about 6 weeks. So I've basically done a lot of long distance sort of crewing under the auspice of a RIA yacht master. But coming here, joining Fremantle, I thought I'm going to buy a boat, learn to sail, but probably the quickest and easiest way to do it is to get into racing. So my first boat was called Mr. Bojangles. Had that for about 10 or 12 years. We raced it on the west coast here. Then we bought a Fourth Dimension, 40-foot 4, which we continued. It's a racer cruiser, so it's not an outright racer. And we've raced from Albany up to Exmouth, probably won most of just about all the trophies on the west coast, except for the Siska Trophy. Anyway, so we had a mission to go outside the country and do some serious cruising. We began our planning for the trip back in 2022. COVID seemed to be under control and the world was opening up again. So the 2023 Fremantle Exmouth race and rally provided a good opportunity to get north, and Exmouth was halfway to Bali. We could complete the race and then convert 4D into cruise mode, and the cruising gear could be taken up and shipped up to Exmouth. So the plan was to follow a rather well-travelled path familiar to some of you here, i.e. Bali, then Fremantle to Bali, then head east along the 8th degree latitude, along to the northern side of the islands until due north of Kupang. There's the dotted line. Then head back to Dampier and then work your way down the coast, picking the weather windows back down to Fremantle. But biosecurity had other ideas. Post-2019 there were changes, and we were told the only place to re-enter Australia was Darwin or Fremantle. So at the time a partial check-in process didn't seem to be an option. A non-stop 1,500 nautical mile passage to Fremantle midwinter seemed to be a bit challenging, so Darwin it was. It meant visa renewals in Monmary, but doable. We also didn't want to beat 500 nautical miles against the southeast trades from Kupang to Darwin. So the idea of a route via the Forgotten Islands was born. So that's right across the 80th degree latitude. A plus was that we could visit the Kimberleys. A minus was that it made the schedule pretty tight if we were to get back to Fremantle by 1 November. The official, which is the official start to the cyclone season and for insurance reasons. So the preparation started, paperwork, agents, boat prep, crew, approximately a 60-page voyage planned on the Indo anchorages with alternatives, thanks to help with Sam on that. And then it was midday, 6th of May 2023. We were off, 8 of us on 4D on the race to Exmouth. Yeah. So that's us in race mode. The trip to Exmouth was a mixed breezes from calms to significant breezes. We drifted at 0.5 of a knot across the line after 5 days at sea. Exmouth, we loaded on the 4D with the cruising gear and the food and watched the water line disappear. So that's us in cruise mode. You can see lots of things have been added to it. We headed to Dampier to clear out and then north to Bali. Trade wind sailing was great when the wind angle was right, 15 to 20 knots southeast until near Indo. When it lightened. That's crossing to Bali. Was a great sail. It even rained. So I think it was a couple of days in and it rained. So that's then we got to Serangan Harbour, which is Serangan Harbour's about 2 miles north of Benoa. That's where many of the small yachts clear in now. We had arranged a mooring close to the dinghy jetty. Clearing in went smoothly. Yep, we made it. There was 5 of us. So people might remember this little jetty. Clearing in went smoothly and the prep was great. Just a few hours and then we were free to travel to Indo, as long as we kept our AIS on. So Ian's going to talk about the Indonesian part. I'll be back to talk about the Northern Territory part.
So evening all. So Lynn's got us to Serangan, to Indonesia. So it's 1,500 miles. I've got another 1,100 miles across Indonesia to entertain you with. So from Serangan, we headed east. Just 4 of us now. So Kim went home. And look, this is a bit of an edited highlight. So lots of highlights. So we've tried to. Still 100 and something slides, so bear with us. But obviously there's Lombok, Lombok, great places, a bit more touristy, and Gili Air, one of the 3 islands is where we pulled up. And this just shows you can dinghy from your boat straight to the beach and then have dinner on the beach. It's really well set up for the tourists, sailors. Part of this, I think some of you, when we were looking at the flavour of this, we thought, well, a few people will be interested in the 25 Fremantle to Indonesia and just, how does it sit from a boat point of view? And one of the things is Madana Bay. Some of you will be aware of that. It's kicked on a bit, and it's a place obviously where people store their boats. You can keep your boat in Indonesia for 3 years now. Without running into sort of taxes and duties and that sort of thing. So they're doing a lot to encourage yachts, and so there's dozens of them up there, and it's a place, one of the few places you can actually haul your boat out. So lots of people keeping their boats there. There are moorings offshore, but not too many of them. And it's a good place for the, of course, when you get the summer season there, the northwesterly winds, trade winds. There was a few stops along the way. Podu Padu, for example, that's a very picturesque little anchorage full of fishermen, as we discovered. But one of the places we wanted to stop was Satonda Island. So this is an old volcano. So you'll see lots of volcanoes in this presentation. That's part of it, and in there's the old caldera. And I think you can go for a swim in that, take a photo. It's meant to be slightly saltier than seawater for some reason, but very picturesque little bay, little lake in there. So go for a swim. This is the jetty or the beach just in front of there. We can pull up. There's Fourth Dimension, and there's Sumbawa in the background. It's quite deep. I'll come on the end summarizing a couple of points about anchoring in Indonesia, but I think we're probably about 25 metres there, and it goes from 25 to about 4 metres very quickly. So then it's further east from Sumbawa. I'd always read my science at school, science classes at school about Tambora, which was the volcano in 1815, which blew up 40 cubic kilometres of dirt. It was dropped the world temperatures by about half a degree on average, and they didn't have a summer in the Northern Hemisphere in 1816. There was so much ash, and it actually caused starvation, etc., crops failed, etc. Anyway, it's missing the top 1.5 kilometres of, as a result of that, 1.5 kilometres of a mountain, but quite impressive. So finally got to see it. Further on, we made a stop at Beamer. I don't have a shot of the thing, but if you look at it up, it's quite an inlet, if you like, into Sumbawa. It was quite a history there. It's a very Muslim-oriented town. The Japanese were there during World War II. It's a fantastic anchorage, and we pulled in there. Great place to supply, etc. And you do a bit of a tour of the surrounding regions. There's some traditional huts. This is a collection of traditional huts they've taken and put in one spot. The idea is it's quite well thought out. The idea is you have the chooks and the pigs on the ground floor. You sleep on this first level, and you get your food up here, where it's actually very cool. And you climb up inside of there, and it's actually quite cool. It's almost like air conditioning. So I found that sort of interesting. Then on to Wera, and you may have heard about the traditional boat building in Indonesia, the Phoenicians. So it takes them 18 months, 2 years to turn a pile of logs into one of the Phoenicians, which you'll see later on. We have in Luan Bajo. Very skilled. They're using fairly rudimentary tools, but you can see the timbers that they're working with. This is sort of 3 inches thick or 4 inches thick in a lot of places, and they drill lots and lots of holes in all there, and then rivet all the planks together and then caulk it. Of course, that's what the parents are doing, whereas the kids just run around the beach and have fun with the tourists. So there's a bunch of kids. I seem to follow Sam wherever we went. Stop Sam. Sam always had a bunch of kids with him. So anyway, they're enjoying themselves. In the back there is a volcano. That's one's active. That's Sanjian volcano, I think. It's actually a double peak volcano, and occasionally it has a puff of smoke. I think 10 years ago they had to evacuate people from it. There's lots of little villages, around the edges of it. Quite a challenge to live in some of these places. Yep, there's the crowd. Someone there caulking away on the Phoenici. It's one sort of part there. There's a bit of a rush on because the tourists after COVID, tourism's really taken off again, and they're building these Phoenicians as fast as they can. So yes, that's the Sanjian volcano, quite spectacular. You sail between there and Sumbawa. Banter Island on the way to Komodo National Park. You actually sort of anchor in a caldera, and it's quite impressive in that area. So finally we get to Labuan Bajo. So this is on Flores, the island of flowers, which is quite a long island. And this is just in it's outside the Komodo National Park. I've got a map there showing it, but this is a a view. And for those of you who are thinking about 2025 and the race and rally there, this is taken actually from a hotel, sort of looking out over and this is the dinghy jetty, so you tie your dinghy up there. We were anchored somewhere down in there. There are further anchorages further down, there's more resort hotels there. And on the north side there's some resort hotels, so in fact you just see a hotel just around the corner there where Lynn and I stayed for a couple of nights. So it's quite a town. Of course, all this is for the tourist trade, so Phoenicians of every shape and size, taking the tourists out for 3 or 4 days at a time in Komodo National Park. There's 4D, an anchor there, and the Phoenici behind there, that's one of the larger ones. And of course, there's just the odd super yacht there. I think one of them we traced to a Russian oligarch. I censored that photo. But obviously they were parked there. And but you also see some of the sort of the landscape of Komodo National Park there as well. That's just another shot from around from that jetty, just showing you, this will be filled up with diesel, etc. But more the harbour, very picturesque, particularly when the sun sets. More Phoenicis, vary shape and size. So we've, as I said, people typically might spend 3 or 4 days doing snorkeling and diving off these. They're quite luxurious inside, some of these things. So there's a big one for you. Even bigger, better one. So they don't do much sailing because there's not much wind there, so you just drift around. There's Paraffin, a super yacht. Apparently the guy who had that built had Yankee candles or something, so a lot of money in scented candles. So this is actually another slide. This is actually the Komodo National Park. That slide. So the national park sort of runs from around here. It doesn't actually hit Sabaya Bessa and doesn't go as far as Badjo. So the park's sort of out here around Rinka. So Rinka and Komodo are the 2 main islands. This is the Flores. It's sort of almost mainland, but it's still an island. And there's a lot of spots to stop and see things on the way, and we'll go through some of those. So various ways of approaching this, but what we chose to do was do a clockwise route, if you like, around back to Lorambajo. So the first stop was Loabaya, which is where you can go see the dragons, and that's probably the best place to go. You can also see them at Komodo. This is the older national park area, but this has actually been recently built, and it's quite a good setup. You buy your tickets to the national park there as well, so you need to have a ticket for the boat for the duration and for all the people. When we went around, this is quite an exciting one. You want to make sure you get your tides right through here and push out, because the Indonesian frou-frou runs north to south, plus you've got the tidal effect as well, so don't go through there. Anchorage there, round to the south of Rinka, and then back up Powell, which is quite a spectacular old volcano, as you'll see. And then we had a look around here. There's a village there as well, a sort of traditional village, a bit touristy. And you can also see dragons here as well. Round through here, that's where you see the manta rays at Casa Reef. Quite impressive at Lower Darat. You can anchor there and do a bit of snorkeling. This is a resort, Sabaya Bessel, which is this island. Kessel is that one. And we'll show you, it's quite a nice resort there and a great place for bintang and wine and all the rest of it. And then back to Badjo. So this is the first stop at Loabaya, Rinka Island. So of course, all this area is a World Heritage Site, UNESCO World Heritage Site. And this is just another shot of the same thing. We were on our own there. All the Phoenicians disappear in the evening, go on to somewhere else or back to LB, so you're sort of left alone. But the jetty's here actually, so you can come up to the resort there. This boat is Twiggy's, so he had to anchor further offshore for draft restrictions. We didn't get an invite to dinner, but that's Pangiros. It's quite an impressive yacht, as you might call it, but not sure if Tookie was on board. I'm not sure he runs a flag up to show he's on board. And these are the dragons, so you don't pack these things. And the reason to go to Rinka or Komodo is you team up with a guide who takes you around with a big stick, and you hope that you can run faster than him, as they do. But these things were about 2.5, 3 metres, this big one here. They're quite big. From tip to tail, they're quite big. So I think there's sort of male and a couple of females, I'm not sure. But anyway, moving quite slowly, but they're quite impressive. Another one walking along. So, a bit like very, very large goannas. But yeah, you don't want to get bitten by them, they've got a nasty bite. So now so round from there, as I showed you, we went round to Gingo. There's some beautiful sunsets up there, and lots of debate whether that green flash will happen or not. But that's looking back towards Powell Island there. So we've come round from the north, and we'll head round south from there. At south, at a place called Awada de Sami, this is on the southern part of Rinka. There's this sort of island, and you can actually go, it's almost a bit fjordish like, you can actually go around through there, anchor. You could come around the other side, but we chose just to go in and anchor. But this is quite, you saw some of the other, there's not many trees, but this is very lush because it's right on the seaside, and you get a lot of the rain coming through there. So this is actually perhaps looking back the other way just before we get into there. The reason I've put this in is for those who think of going, this is Rinka, this is Padar, and this is Sumbawa, and the finish line will be about there. So it's quite wide, about 12 miles wide, so the finish line will be a bit less, but between the land here and here is about 12 miles, so should be fairly easy to get through. So, and then you enter the park. So then it's round to Padar, which is quite an impressive. This is the image that's on the 50,000 rupiah Indonesian note. Looking down there, you've got 3 different bays, different colours. I can't remember, one's pink and one's black and one's something or other. We snagged a mooring just there, which is good. We actually turned up not realising that it's only open very early in the morning and late in the afternoon. We turned up in the middle of the day and thought it's fantastic, we've got a mooring, and all the Phoenicians disappeared, and we realised that it actually sort of shut, but with a bit of discussion we managed to convince them we got a sort of bit of a private tour up to the top and looking out over this Padar Island, which is very impressive. 1,300 steps, I think, then to the top.
In the middle of the day.
In the middle of the day, yeah. Take some water and some shade. So,
who took the photo?
I think I took that one.
I think we've got lots and lots of different photos for that, but
we've got about 50 different views of that, but that was probably the best.
Yeah, it's yeah. And for those of you who when you get there, you can anchor. So this is anchorage. It's a bit challenging. You can anchor there and there, and a lot of the Phoenicians, there's another beach round in there, and during the day that's some of the beaches. Komodo, the other Komodo island is that in the background. They do this sort of trek. So there's some lovely beaches on that side as well.
Black, pink, and white.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I think this one's black, isn't it?
Yeah,
and then there's
other
pink and
pink
white. And further over here, there's another pink beach and that sort of thing. So there's multicoloured beaches as well. This is so we're now around to Makassar Reef, and this is unfortunately didn't get shot of the manta rays, but they are very impressive. Our photography wasn't quite up to it, but these things, are 2-3 metres wingspan, if you like, just gliding underneath your boat. But the other interesting thing to watch is all the tourists turn up, this is just a mere fraction of them, and they pile all the Japanese and Korean and Chinese tourists into the water, and they go looking for their manta rays. So so it's quite a high activity, but you don't need to anchor it there. You can just sort of drift around a bit in the current. And we just had the dinghy out, and we take it in turns and just look underneath with your goggles, and eventually one of these things will just swim underneath, and of course then you just dive over from the dinghy and try and keep up with it. But very graceful. Okay, this is now further north, Gililawa Darat, and so this is actually Komodo Island now, and this is an island just to the north, and there's Gililawa Laut, which is even further. The benefit of this is there's dragons here, but there aren't dragons here. I think there might be the odd goat, so you can get ashore here without getting eaten. Ranger sat down there, we managed to snag a mooring there. There's not too many moorings in the park, but fantastic snorkelling along just on here, really off the back of the boat. And this through here, this gap, you can see a bit of current, there's drift snorkelling. So you pile in the dinghy, let the current do the work, and you just jump overboard, grab a rope, and just drift through and then motor back, and fantastic to watch the fish and the coral and everything else there. So that's another shot. You can see the current sort of flowing through there, and some of the coral, etc. here. So very impressive. Lots of snorkeling in Indonesia. Now this is back to Surabaya Besa, so it's on the way back now to Labuan Bajo. This is actually a resort. It's been there for over 20 years. It's actually outside the national park. So you can get there. So tourists do sort of trips out from LB. It's only half an hour by fast boat and here. But the benefit of this place is there's some chalets and everything right on the waterfront. The reef's just outside the front, so you can go snorkeling there. And there's all the services. So that's the crowd enjoying the sunset and a drink before we go in for dinner. That's the sunset just off there, so quite pretty. And some of the snorkeling there, we're not really good on the underwater shots. There's a bit of a trick to that, but it's just some of the coral, because the previous owners just changed hands. The previous owner, the Italian family that had it, did a deal with the local fishermen to not fish that particular part. So it's untouched, unlike, unfortunately, a lot of other coral areas in Indonesia, which have been, in some cases, blasted or fished or, whatever. This is very pristine, and it's only a metre of water. Yeah, it's really spectacular. Of course, you can't see the fish there. Oh, there's a fish. Yeah. So I like these little stripy ones. Quite cute. There's some blue starfish around as well. Okay, here's my picture. So again, this is, so just to remind you, we sort of came out here, did the loop around. I mean, this distance from here to here is only 30 miles, so sort of 40 by 30 or something like that. It's quite a manageable sort of size, and this is the area of the gazetted area of the national park here. So you can see Surabaya is outside, and this is Labuan Bajo here. For those thinking of the race and rally, the finish will be somewhere in this region, and you go around through here, thread your way up, go up to LB there, so it's 30 miles. So that gives you perhaps a bit of perspective. But look, we thought, so here at Rinka, which I showed you where we're anchored, there's the park where they have elevated walkways, so you don't need to mix it with the dragons. You can point them out, and then you go for a guided tour. But we found just anchored, in these little bays here, and one surprised us around here. There was one we'd been snorkeling. We just got back in the dinghy about 20 feet off the beach, and looked up, and there was one eyeing us off under the tree. So, so there's plenty of dragons around. Fortunately, I think he'd eaten that. He'd had breakfast already. So. We then went further on to Flores, and there's these what they call the Three Lakes at Kalamutu. And these are actually sort of a bit spiritual, they're sort of sacred lakes as well, in Indonesian folklore. Three coloured lakes, there's one for the kids, one for the old folk, and one for the evil ones. So you can figure out which one you. So I think that's children and evil or something. The old folks are over the other side, but quite spectacular. I mean, you know, the geology of the thing, and these change colour. Get there early in the morning because you have to wait a bit for the clouds to lift. This is quite high. So there's another shot, different colours, but just very rugged. And of course, like a lot of places in Indonesia, you know, because you're Westerners, you're a bit of a novelty too. So lots of kids come around and want to take photos of them and everything else. So. And of course, you have to do the traditional village tour. So on the way there, and then in Flores, in quite a few areas, there's these different type of traditional villages. But this one, people still live there, and they do the ikat weaving, which I'll show you in a moment. But it's sort of around a village square, etc. So, and these are quite high up. A lot of these. We did notice the odd one had a solar panel on it, so there's things have moved on a bit. There's ikat weaving, which is these multicoloured sort of shawls and things like that, which there's lots and lots you can buy yours, colours and things like that there. So, moving further along, one of the other, Eastern events, we're anchored in this bay, and it's known for this is an island here. This is sort of Flores, call it the mainland if you like, but Flores Island. And you get this bat migration, and millions of bats. They live here during the day because I think there's not too many things to disturb them, the predators, and then they fly to the fruit trees and things on the island here. And so these silently sort of fly over the top of you, and a couple perch on the boat. I found the solar panels quite interesting to sit on. So, whoops, what have I done?
Is it plugged in? Lost power. Lost power.
Okay, now we're back again. Okay, so there's the bats. So this is just a typical sort of Indonesian village. It was a bit more colourful than the normal ones, and we tried to fish in Indonesia, but had absolutely no hope. So the easiest thing is just go buy your fish from a friendly fisherman who's done all the hard work. So we've got a beautiful fish there, orange fish, and from this village here. So worked out quite well. But interesting sort of places you stop. There is there's 3 houses in here, and I think there was a grandfather, parents, and kids or something in the different.
Yeah, the grandparents, the 2 sons, and they've both got families. So it's just the one family.
Yeah, just in this village.
3 houses.
Just in this thing, beachfront living in Indonesia. That was their and obviously they farmed, etc. The local area. The village is actually over the hill here, and they fish. So this is one of their fishing boats. So I think it's a squid boat, and then a normal fishing boat. And kids came out to visit us. So the usual thing is, exchange a few gifts or give them a few gifts. They insisted on giving us coconut, which is pretty hard to deal with. But the real reason they came out was to get a selfie. So they were about 9 years, but you can actually see they've all, the kids now they don't have paper and pencil, they've got bloody smartphones. So they got a selfie of us, so they were happy. And we got our coconut. Not sure what we managed to do with it. But further along, we renewed visas in Montmary, as Lynn said. 60 days visa, but we needed to renew another 60 days. You can anchor in Montmary, but it's a bit industrial, a bit commercial. So we get 5 miles down the road, you can go to the SeaWorld Resort and anchor offshore, have a bintang and wine, and some good food, and watch the sunset yet again. So Montmary's sort of over here in the distance. There's 4D. Another sunset shot. Onto Croco Apple, which is just a sandy cay actually, just in the middle of nowhere, but towards the evening the tide goes out and the tourists turn up. So they all go there to get their selfies taken. Interesting thing about this place is, other than the fish farm or a pearl farm, one of the two, another debate on whether there's a green flash or not, so that was just behind the boat. Indonesia's challenged from fishing nets and those sorts of things. But the other thing of interest there is you get a great view of an active volcano, so this is Tolok. And every 20 minutes it lets out a big cloud of smoke, and at night you can see the flash. But sitting in that anchorage, there's actually a mooring buoy there, sitting in that anchorage we counted 8 volcanoes around, which I think this one and Sanjian were active. So we went, you end up going round to the north of this. During the day we stopped at Balurin. So this is looking from the west, from the east back the other way, and as we went round there was a sort of a huge, big thump cannon shot and some lava spewed out of the top of it, so right on cue. So that's yet another sunset. And this is the town, the village, bit of a rickety jetty, but lovely anchorage actually, really well protected. Just down the road, skipping a couple of islands, is Kalabahi. Oh, sorry, by the way, from here on, Lembata Island is where boats, some of you may have previously sort of turned right and gone down to Kupang to clear out, so you come through the various straits there. But as noted, we couldn't, so we headed for Kalabahi, which you can also get down to Kupang from here, but quite spectacular. It's almost fjord-like, this inlet, and the town is right at the end, about 8 miles down. Interesting thing, there's about 5 knots of current flowing through there, so that makes it interesting. And this is looking back the other way, of course your usual mosque there, some fantastic mosques. Get a wake-up call at 5 a.m. every morning. Bit of competition between the mosques, so they try and get in earlier and louder than anyone else. But this is taken from...
Could you move the microphone?
Oh, sorry.
Standing sideways we have.
Hello. Okay. So this is actually looking back the other way, down the inlet to Kalabahi. So this is the township taken from one of the hotels there. We're anchored down to the left there. So quite very protected too. Leaving Kalabahi, we found some company. This fellow surfaced about 50, 100 metres in front of us. So it gave us a bit of a shock. We think it was a blue whale. It's a bit hard to tell the scale of that from here, but it was definitely a lot bigger than the humpbacks and southern rights that you get around here, I can tell you. So, but he was heading to the Banda Sea, as they do. But he was actually tacking up the coast, and quite smart, these whales. So that was one of our whale shots. From there on, okay, this is Kalabahi here, so Alor Island. As I say, Kupang's down here, and a lot of people thread their way through, end up down Kupang. We have, of course, had to continue on. This is what they call the Forgotten Islands. As I said, most of the traffic comes through here, or even around Timor. And from the other way, traffic will go up north this way. So this tends to be a bit out of the way. And the idea here, as Lynn said, that we would thread our way, trying to take some shelter from the islands as we worked our way across from the southeast trades, which are coming through here. And of course, back here, you've got the protection of volcanoes and quite high mountains protecting you from the southeast trades, so it's quite sheltered. You do a lot of motoring. So what we did was we sort of found some anchorages here, basically where the small towns were on Whitehead, clawed our way across over to Remang, Hilia there, and then we were going to Leti, but the weather was good and time was in, so we ended up at Baba, and then to Samlaki where we could clear out and go to Darwin. So this is the sort of terrain. It's hard to find an anchorage in these places, quite rugged, going past Whitehead. This is Iray, which is sort of like the capital of Whitehead. Not many people there, and of course this is
the jetty and the township sort of in there. Not many buildings at all. But quite different sort of scenery and quite lush. This is further on Remang, which is actually a bit of a mining town. So these chaps came out, paddled out. These were security for the mine, and this is, I think whether it's manganese or whatever they're mining somewhere up there, and these guys were going. So we had a good chat to them. Quite jovial. You always have interest whenever you pull up somewhere, someone's going to come out. This is further on at Baba, and a chap here, fisherman.
It was Angus, I think.
Yeah, Angus. Town of 300 people. That was all on Barbara Island. Only 3 spoke English. His English was absolutely fantastic. Learnt it off the internet. So really, really friendly chap. They just come out and want to talk to you. So you're a bit of a novelty. Finally, getting to Simlaki in the Tanimar Islands, where we could clear out. Again, it's quite a protected little village. It's one of the Indonesian fast boats that zoom around, making a hell of a racket between all the islands. That's the bus transport, if you like, within Indonesia, as some of you know. This is within Simlaki Harbour. Not many places to pull up your dinghy, though